alive, even though people might want to think otherwise.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, both of us being Trinidadians and being able to be fluent in Hindi is something that should be promoted within the context of what we're going to talk about.
Of course.
So, we all know you. You entered the Chutney Soca Monarch competition second time this year.
Yes.
But before this, you were very popular in Baitak Ghana, which is local classical as well as Shastriya Sangeet.
Yes.
So you're very dynamic when it comes to the performance of Hindustani music,
Yes.
whether it be local or Shastriya Sangeet from India. Just give the audience a little bit about your background, because you come from a very popular local classical family.
Well, it all started with my late grandfather, my Nana, Sukhdev Sukraj, or better known as Sukhdev Kelawan. He was born in Arangwez. He grew up under some of the greats like the late great Ramcharitar, Ramdani Sharma. I mean, Ramcharitar being one of his gurus. He was very good friends with the late great Shri Patishri Tiwari's son, Hariprasad Tiwari. He's a very close friend to the Prasad family as well. He grew up with Pandit Haridev Prasad. You know, they learned the language together. You know, being his grandson, I had that responsibility after his death to do something about what he left for us. You know, he was actually one of the frontline local classical singers. He knew the language, you know, and he was very prolific in everything that he did. It was an honor for me to follow in his footsteps. I started singing initially at age 5 in temple. Local classical singing was never at the forefront for me at that time. It was basically, you know, you learn a bhajan, you go to the temple and sing it. However, you know, when my granddad passed away in 1998, you know, my family, my parents directly, they came to me and they said, you know what, your grandfather was such a good local classical singer. Maybe you should take up in his footsteps and carry on that tradition. And without any hesitation, I said yes. And, you know, I didn't have the opportunity while he was alive to actually train from him. However, listening to his recordings, you know, talking to most of his friends at that time, you know, I got their guidance, you know, and I started singing local classical singing. Local classical singing, you know, it was inevitable. It became my first love. I just fell in love with that art form. The beat, the moods, the compositions, you know, everything was really, really nice to me. It was very, very educational in the sense of, you know, I'm a Hindu. And most of the songs that we would have sung were based on scriptures. So I was actually having fun while learning my scriptures as well. Shri Krishna Katha, Shri Ram Katha, you know, most of the local classical songs are Shri Ram Katha, Shri Krishna Katha. So, you know, in that I became a devotee of Shri Ram. You know, I was given the opportunity to visit India, you know, through that by Pandit Manidev Prasad, my guru. You know, he gave me the opportunity to go and showcase my talent in India in 2004. With that encouragement, I came back to Trinidad and Tobago, and I started singing local classical singing. Really, really, it took the forefront of my life. That was my everything. I entered a lot of competitions. We were successful. The Independence Nationwide Classicals competition, I won that competition. The Class B at least about 6 times. Class A, I won that once. In fact, twice. The second time getting my car. I won a car singing local classical singing. In fact, it was the first car ever given for singing local classical singing. Then, you know, I branched off into singing bhajans. Filmy selections was always there. And I mean, today I'm here, a product of local classical singing, Baitak Ghana. I've branched off into the new genre of Baitak Ghana, which is chutney. And, you know, I'm taking it one step at a time to see where it leads.
Now, a lot of people don't know, because in Shastriya Sangeet, there's always the tutelage of a gharana, right? And in my research, I see that there were semblances of that during the time or the heyday of local classical in Trinidad. I know it's, at least in our generation, we might know of it, but being from such a family, you have any inkling as to how rigid that was? And it was, because a lot of people look at Shastriya Sangeet as the formal classical form. And a lot of times you even get statements from people from India that it's really a folk reinterpretation of what classical is. But to me, it still bears semblance to the earlier forms of that Shastra Sangeet that our indentured laborers brought. Based on you being from such a family, you have any evidence or based on your experience with regard to that aspect of tutelage in local classical?
Of course. I was really surprised one day. I was listening to a recording of my granddad, and he was singing the song Koti Jatan Se Gavre Koi, and I was saying, this song's like Rag Kafi, and I was actually blown away because before learning Sastriya Sangeet, I wouldn't have noticed that was actually a piece of Rag Kafi.
Right.
After having, I say learning, so I'm still learning. But I had a little ear towards the raga, and I know the aro, the afro, the pakad of the raga, and I listened to it and I'm saying, my granddad is actually singing Bhairavi very, very good. And then to add to that, the drummer, which is a dholak player, was actually playing teen tal in that selection. To the folks who might not have that background where they would have known Sastriya Sangeet at that time, it would have passed them. It would have been dubbed as just local classical singing. But to the person who has the knowledge of the raga or the ragas, they would say, hey, this guy knows what he's singing. My guru from India, Shri Dr. Ruby Malik, she listened to him and she was like, he's actually a really good singer. He's singing Rag Kafi, and this is teen tal that they are singing in. And then I asked myself, I say, wait, this brings up the question: did my grandfather had access to formal training? Right. Now going back to the original point you asked me, the original question is that yes, Sastriya Sangeet is the formalized version because there's a notation system for it. However, in places such as UP, Bihar, Lucknow, we have our Bhojpuri singers. Their music was never formalized, or there wasn't a notation system to their music. That is where most of our ancestors came to Trinidad from. And at this point in time, it would be wrong of me to say that they were informal, because it's still being done. Actually, I know a lot of people, including yourself, you're actually working towards getting this type of music formalized, because it's so prolific and it's so prevalent right now. The mere fact that we have chutney singers in Trinidad and Tobago is stemming from the Bhojpuri style.
Right.
And this is actually being accepted worldwide now as the standard of music coming out of Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean, Suriname, and Holland as well, by Ghana. So for me to say that this is not formalized, I might be wrong, because it's in the works, and I think that very soon, and I'm hopeful that it could be formalized, so that we could actually say this is something that belongs to us, and we know where we want to go with it.
And you bring to the fore Guyana, Suriname, and I could go further and say Fiji, Mauritius, Netherlands, and it's something from my point of view. Looking at the language, say my grandparents would have spoken when I was much younger, I realized that language is actually still spoken in Suriname,
yes,
and is also still spoken by people in their winter years in Guyana, as well as Fiji, Mauritius, South Africa, and the Netherlands. And by extension, the music, because this Baita Ghana / local classical that we speak of is just not unique to Trinidad alone.
No.
Because Suriname and Guyana, Fiji, Mauritius, they also share the same common history. And you said you did travel a lot. So based on those travels, just to bring it to the fore within this forum, your comparisons with the forms that were sung there, and similarities and differences.
Our local classical singing here, I would say, is unique in regards to the beats itself. There's very close similarities to what they sing in Suriname. However, it's slightly different in regards to the beat, the lay of the song, and the way it's sung is basically the same. However, as I said, the rhythm is slightly different, right? It would be different. However, with that being said, moving on to Jamaica, I went there. It would be 10 years going now.
And you regularly go there, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's 10 years we're traveling
Right,
there
right.
every single year. And I was
And I'm glad
really
you bring up
surprised.
Jamaica too, because I didn't even include that in the list of countries. And
Right.
when I actually tell people there about 40,000 odd or more East Indians there who still practice what we know as Indian culture in Trinidad, they're completely amazed. So you could actually now tell us what does exist there in your experience.
Well, I believe that they are actually doing something very, very right, because culture is something that is not restricted to a race. And I was very, very pleased to see when I went to Jamaica for the first year that we actually have Afro-Jamaicans singing the folk songs. And they are actually singing it very, very correct in the Bhojpuri language. And, within the coming years, I saw the way that you measure if something is successful is if you see continuation in it. And I actually saw within the first 5 years, every year going, that there would be more and more younger children taking part, and they are not interested in the English format or
Right.
the chutney soca versions of it.
Right.
However, they are singing the raw Baita Ghana, and they have some dance that they call Nachania dance, where they would portray that they are on a horse or some kind of thing, and they're dancing and singing that, and they have a lot of pride doing it. I mean, you would see from 12-year-olds to the adolescent teen to the 20-year-olds. All of them, they are very, very proud to come up on the stage and sing a Bhojpuri song. It's basically maybe like a chutney. If we hear it, we'd say, it's like the traditional chutney that we have in Trinidad. But, it's a culture that is thriving. And, I appreciated it very, very much. And it actually inspired me, to bring that back here. Because what happened is, one thing I think that we need in Trinidad, and we could actually take a book out, a page out of their book, is the language, which is one, and bringing back the traditional music as well.
And that's a very interesting point to bring up about language. We'll probably talk about that, because I want to specifically talk about that within this context as a forgotten tradition. But you mentioned Nachania, and I realized, though, looking within the diaspora, in certain parts, certain aspects of culture will die, but it still remains alive in another part.
Yes.
So even though I remember Nachania as a child, especially performed at weddings along with the Biraha and the Nagara dancing.
Yes.
But you don't see it anymore.
And Raja Harishchandra.
Exactly. And now that you mention Nachania, I remember looking back to Suriname recently, and it's still alive. That's the form where a guy dresses up like a woman and dances to whether it be Nagara drums or the Tassa drummets. Have you gone to Guyana or Suriname anytime in your repertoire of singing?
I've never personally visited them. However, their influence is very heavy on me, because
Right.
I would draw inspiration from the greats like Ramdev Chaitu, even young singers, Sandeep Badlu. He's a very, very big inspiration to me. Brijvanti Chaitu, all these, Queen Yasmin, they are very good singers. Draupadi, the original Draupadi, I grew up listening to them. And if I were to sing a chutney song or a upbeat song, I would actually go to them, their music, and draw from them. So I mean, the way how technology is now, you don't need to go there to get what you need. You just go to YouTube and you type it up, and I must say congratulations to you as well. Sometimes when I pull up a song and I don't know the meaning too well, I'm a little bit sticky on the Bhojpuri, I would call you, and you would personally assist me with that. And I mean, Suriname, Guyana, Holland, very, very prevalent in regards to my learning of the art form.
And we've been doing a lot of work together with Caribbean Hindustani.
Right.
Part of, one of the organizations with this ITV production doing Forgotten Traditions. But through Caribbean Hindustani, my own personal experience is that what I would have seen lost in Trinidad it is very alive in other parts of the diaspora. And I want to bring in the conversation here about SR Music and Sandeep Badlu,
Right.
a group that we started doing at least some having conversations with.
Yes.
Because one thing I noticed is that the local classical form you spoke about, it's not as popular as chutney or chutney soca with the youths. Could you speak to, I mean, being a performer as well, could you speak to that experience?
Recently, after looking at, I mean, we need to move with time, place, and circumstance, right? We need to move with the times. And recently, you know, we have a lot of competitions that is happening right now that represents what we call Indian culture on a worldwide basis, right? So we can't run away from that. We have to accept that fact. Chatmuna being one, and it's a competition by itself. And I think that you should know what you're going to be singing before you enter the competition, and don't wait until it's finished to voice your opinion based on probably a personal experience that you would have, right? Looking on a broad spectrum, after that, a lot of people would be saying, you know, I've been hearing the talk that traditional chutney is dead in Trinidad. I beg to differ, because a culture could never really die. It can evolve. And we can't force feed people, you know, someone who was born in the year 2000, you can't tell them listen to a singer or force them to listen to a singer that would have been in our time.
Right.
Because we would have been able to appreciate that. There would have been a market for that. And even on the singer's behalf, there would have been a market for that music at that time. They would have been able to make some money out of it and even sell out venues to perform that in. I believe, respect it as it was. That is how it was, and the music evolved from there. And you can't fight evolution, right? The music is what it is today. It eventually branched off into chutney soca, and that is what sells. That is what creates opportunities for the young artists out there. And in that regard, I would say that the culture is not dying, you know. It's evolving, and we should learn to adapt, improvise, and overcome as artists and as a people as well. When Elvis Presley used to sing rock and roll back in his time, how could you tell Adam Levine now, you have forgotten your tradition or whatever it is?
And I think people look outside of that context, because you may bring a valid point when you look at this evolution not only being in chutney or local classical, it actually is on the world stage in world music. You can't bring back, even though, yes, there's the 80s classics. So, Hamna Jaibe Sasur Ghar Mein Baba, or Kaise Bani, right? Even though they might be remixed, they still remain classics. We can't change it. But at the end of the day, other songs that would have come from that tradition may not necessarily be as classics now.
No.
And we spoke about language, which we'll talk about in further on. But most of what I've noticed is that now you have Trinidad English Creole being most of the lyrical content of chutney music, just with the same Indian beat, or it might be a fusion between Indian and calypso / soca, right? Being somebody now who has gone into the realm of chutney soca and coming from what you spoke about, local classical, into Shastra Sangeet, into chutney itself, and then into chutney soca, from your own experience, could you express to us how you see that evolution?
Definitely. This is inevitable as an artist. If you're looking at it from the artist's point of view, then you have no choice really but to go with the flow. Go with the trend, right? As trends is what sets the standard these days. We're living in an age where technology is not as it used to be back in the 90s, the 80s, the 60s, 70s. Technology is something that if you're not impressive, someone could actually, they have the option now. I don't need to listen to radio or view it on TV or wherever it is, you know, there's YouTube, I could always listen to what I want. So it's very hard to capture the ears and the eyes of the people out there. So to the artist now, while personally you may like something, you were brought up in something, you have to adapt to what is selling and what makes you an artist and what you could have a future with. Ask any singer, ask any musician out there. You would never see Veejai Ramkissoon sitting down in an office behind a computer from 9 to 5 that's not for us. We are musicians. This is what we want to make our life out of. What we want to do every single day, and we want to get paid for doing it as well. The only way you could do that is if you actually go with the trend, what is selling, what people are looking at. The reason why though we need to do that these days, and you know, this is a controversial thing that I might be saying, but it needs to be said. A lot of people would say, you know, we lost the language. Somewhat, we lost the language. We are losing the tradition. However, we have a lot of greats. I'm not going to call any names, but what was offered from the greats to the generation after? Did they offer a workshop? Did they offer, you know what, let me teach you some of my songs. Let me teach you the language. Maybe if it was done at that time, then we would have seen, you know, a better influx of artists coming out, you know, and it would have been a little bit more prevalent. That is why today there was a gap. After those who actually made the money from it, made it prevalent at that time, you know, had their run with it, it was done with them. There was no continuation after that. So to the younger artists, there was a gap, and to the younger artists these days, it's very hard to actually learn the language now, unless you actually make a personal commitment to go to a class. You know, it's a little bit difficult. So I wouldn't put the blame on the artists and the lyrical content coming out now, because if I didn't have the opportunity to learn chutney from one of the greats, you know, and you know, I'm a good singer. I sing a couple film songs, and I want to sing a chutney, and you know, I'm thinking I can't play a harmonium, but I could go to a producer and sing a song, and they would get the music for me. I might not know the language because it's not my fault, but I could actually go and sing a song in English.
That's a good point you bring across that I want to explore. But we pause for a break and come back after the ads.
We all want to save money without compromising on the best quality insurance coverage. If you are renewing your motor or homeowner insurances soon, then call us at Ekta Consultants. With over 27 years in the insurance industry, we can offer you significant savings on your insurance premiums. As agent for Guardian Group, we assure you the best quality coverage at a very competitive price. Email us at ektagroupmail@gmail.com.
Welcome back, and we're having a very interesting conversation about the forgotten tradition of language as well as music within the context of chutney and chutney soca. I'd like to also ask our audience to go on to Caribbean Hindustani. It's a Facebook page that addresses some of the issues we talk about now. But Veejai, you were making an interesting point about the fact that the tradition of local classical or chutney wasn't passed down by the stalwarts from a period, maybe a generation or 2 generations before us. And I want to agree, because my own personal opinion is sometimes, even me, through Caribbean Hindustani, I try to promote basically translation of the lyrics, because even though we might know Raat ke sapna dikhaya piya humko, I mean, there's a lot of philosophy behind it, I think, that people should know. But my experience is, when I go to the artists, they're not sure about the lyrics themselves. A lot of times when I try to translate the songs, even they themselves might not know the correct pronunciation of the word. And then when I also do my research, I try to pin it back on which language it is from, which source the lyrics would have come from, and what the meaning would be. And I tend to find a difficult time even with the artists themselves. But it really speaks a lot to say that nothing was done on their part, and I find a lot of time it's more about hiding the information so that they would, for want of a better word, not have the competition. And for me and you, we know competition is a big deal.
Exactly.
Once you set the bar higher and you create more competition, the art form is driven to become more perfect, because you want to be the best competitor.
Exactly. Definitely what you said, I mean, everything you said is truth. I wouldn't say all. There were those who would actually offer the help. But then it would have been limited to who they knew.
Because the language,
Marketing
I
it
think, was being
harder
lost
that
at that point too. So even they themselves weren't as fluent in it.
Yes, and as you said, right, the reason why we had that gap is because at that time they were making money out of it as well, right? If I were to sell you all my ideas that I have now, you know, then I'm giving you ideas to come and beat me as well, you know, on the stage, you know, be my competition. And maybe that was one of the reasons why that, you know, there was a gap. And now, you know, the youth, you know, those of them who were fortunate to actually have family members that continued along that line, you know, they would have a first-hand, you know, experience of learning from them or drawing like inspiration. However, for those who would have just listened to the recordings, you know, yes, that is our culture. That is what we accepted as our identity as Indo-Caribbean Indians. And you know, we stemmed our music from that. You know, most of the time they wouldn't even know what it means, but they would be singing it, and you know, a lot of the artists would say, you know, I'm trying to keep my culture alive.
Right.
I'm singing what they sang, and they made their money from. But who's going to pay me for singing it now? Who's actually going to give me an endorsement? You know, am I doing something that had its time and was prevalent, and I'm trying to bring that back, trying to recreate that in a different time? It's like bringing a dinosaur back to life now. Where would it fit in?
But I want to go then on the point of artists limiting themselves because they themselves do the research, right? You and I have done a lot of work together, and hopefully we could probably show one of the results of that by maybe you singing one of these songs we would have done at the end. But one is, for instance, if you have an idea, you would call me up and say, Visham, well, this is it in English, please put it in Bhojpuri/Hindi Hindustani. Or even if you can't get me, you would go online and you could actually get the correct lyrics and pronunciation that is in Roman script. But I realize a lot of the big bands now, even when they sing over songs from Bollywood, or even sing over like a Ramdev Chaitu or a Draupadi, they don't get the lyrics right. And I could hear it because if it doesn't make sense when they would sing and you know the language, you could pick it up. And unfortunately, the death of the language slowly in Trinidad and Guyana is the end result of that. But what would you have to say to the artist who wants to be professional? Because I think, remember, if you're a Hindustani artist, you're not only singing for Trinidadians who know Hindi, your song is going all over the world, even to people who understand the Hindustani language. So do you think that it would basically boost their professionalism, in a sense, to at least get the lyrics right in pronunciation?
Most definitely, this is advisable to all artists, not only the artists who are singing over the Bollywood song. I mean, once you're doing something, I believe, I'm a perfectionist, do it properly or don't do it at all. However, it comes back to the same point. We have a lot of crossover bands now. Crossover meaning that they could actually put a chutney with a soca, a chutney with a film song, a chutney with a Latin song,
right?
Even patwa,
right?
And let's just say the audience goes more for the beat in the song. It doesn't really matter what the lyrics would be saying, right? I've noticed this. Mind you, I don't do it, but this is what is accepted because the music is actually set by trends now. Who is popular, you know? And you know, it doesn't matter what they sing, and this is
even if they sing it in English, because I might find myself gravitating towards a song after some time, and I say, but you know what? I don't even know what the guy is singing in the song,
he's singing,
and he's singing English, right? And I speak English, so it goes through to not even Hindustani itself. It goes to even the soca song you might listen to in Trinidad English Creole.
Yeah, I mean, but it stems way further than the artists themselves.
Right.
It stems to the public, right? Because believe me, if the public doesn't like it, then it would not be making the name that it is making. However, they accept it, and this is what encourages the artists to continue doing that because hey, if you're buying it, then I don't need to improve it.
But artists like yourself, I know you're more dynamic than that, right?
Most
In the sense that yes, you might probably go with the trend, But you also utilize that trend to now include what you want to see change as well. And also behind the scenes, you also work on new compositions
Yes.
that you might probably see would be in vogue at some later point. And I think, unlike yourself, other artists don't really do that.
Well, I'll let you know one of my plans right now. I mean, I always like to give myself an ultimatum.
Right.
You know, what I want to accomplish. And, you know, a lot of people, they ask me initially, Veejai, when you're going into chutney soca, why?
Exactly.
You know, something wrong. Diman kharab hai, you know, they were asking me all these
I
things.
remember
you know?
when you were going, it's like Visham, you know, a lot of these people actually now don't listen to music anymore because they feel
Yeah.
like I'm turning my back on them.
Right? And, you know, I want to say this. You have to be strategic now, right? I'm one that wants to see local classical singing, Beta Ghana, come back to the forefront,
Right.
right? And I will never say it's dead because I'm still alive and I'm fighting that fight.
But not only that, Vijay, I mean, I'm talking about my experience with you. You would actually bring the form of the most authentic because
Yes.
you know what you're singing in the lyrics. And that's something I find a lot of artists should focus on.
However, the whole plan to enter, you know, the chutney realm and the chutney soca monarch is because that is the biggest stage when it comes to singing. It doesn't matter how good you could sing. It doesn't matter the language. That is the competition that sets the standard, right? And it's a prestigious competition. I respect that competition very much because it gives the opportunity to the artists to make some money and make themselves someone, right? So I'm looking at that and saying, you know what? You want to make a drastic change with music, then I need to personally make drastic changes with me as
Right,
well,
yeah.
right? So I can't sit down here and say, you know, I just want local classical singing to come back to the front.
Exactly.
I need to put myself in that position
Yeah.
where my word will mean something. So the only way to do that, go straight into the competition that would make you someone.
Yeah.
Adapt, improvise, overcome. You know, so I could do it as well. I'm going to go in that competition. Hopefully, not hopefully, I am going to win one day because I'll keep going until I do so, right? I'm not being cocky or anything, but it's my ambition to win that competition. Even before I win, just the trend that knowing that Veejai Ramkissoon is someone that we know now, you know, he's mainstreaming, you know, that's my goal. When you actually put something good towards them now, they would listen to it. Because you're someone now. Because you're in their realm. You're setting a trend. If we look at some of the big stars, right? We have, let's just say, we have Ravi December, we have KI, we have Raymond Ramnarine. If Raymond Ramnarine, KI, or Ravi were to stand up with a harmonium, with the audience that they have, the following that they have, and sing a local classical classical song, trust me, it's going to make a hit. Why? Because that is what is trending. We need to strategically think about this, right? By forcing it down people's throat, it's not going to work. By making a whole sort of banter that, you know, the tradition is dying, but what are we personally willing to do? We can't force the people to do it. You have to go to them. So when you're actually putting yourself there as well, I try to keep my standard, make sure that the lyrics it's on point. You actually personally help me with that. So even the English lyrics, that it makes sense and it's family oriented, but we also stick to their genre as well, so it would be appealing to the discerning audience out there. So in doing so, we made an impact. I mean, this year we placed 4th in the competition. However, if you look back to our performance or whatever it is we did before, you will see that there is some decorum with it as well. So strategically, we are bringing that sense of it back, and we hope that when we actually, you know, put ourselves in that position where we could set a trend, we bring back the music 100%. From my part, that is.
You make an interesting point as well, because somebody could have a dream to want local classical or traditional chutney back, but if that person by themselves or the persona is not a brand, then they can't make that change. So then you can't blame the fact that the song didn't get you where it's supposed to be. You're supposed to create your own name to make that change. Yeah.
Most definitely. nearly all the frontline singers that we have right now, they are a brand.
Right.
And that is what sells and is marketable. You have to make yourself marketable. People, they are not going to market something because you think that they owe it to you or owe it to the culture. No. You need to actually impress and be able to sell yourself. And that's where I believe we are declining in the art form itself. You know, just because I sing local classical singing or traditional chutney, why it is that, you know, I expect that everybody owes me everything.
Right.
It's not like that. You have to actually be able to put in the work, do your research, and be able to adapt and make yourself a brand, make yourself marketable, so that when people come to you, they know what to expect from you, and you would be able to sell on the worldwide basis. With that being said, one of the most exciting things that is happening to me right now, you know, after singing in the Chutney Monarch, you know, I'm still a classical singer. I will always be a local classical singer, no matter what. That is my forte, and I will always stick to that. That is my tradition. I love it. I am experiencing different musics right now. I'm actually, you know, going into them for the experience sake, see where it takes me. And I must say a special thank you to you for making a collaboration with the young, the brilliant, the talented Sandeep Badlow out of Holland. You know, he's one of the greatest Baita Ghana singers that we have right now. Yes, to come, people would be looking at him as the next Ramdev Chaitu, because one, he composes his own songs, and if he does a song, a remake of a song, he does it with so much conviction that it actually sounds like his rather than a remake.
Yeah, it brings his uniqueness to it and his version of the song.
And he's a young person that I look up to.
Right.
Sandeep might be younger than me, right? But I could look up to him because he knows the language and he knows how to put it strategically to appeal to the younger audience. Sandeep's fan base is so big. You know, when he has his concerts in Suriname and Holland, you know, if you even Google his name, you would see that he has like thousands of people singing Baita Ghana in an open air thing. And he would in case you guys are wondering what he does, he stands up with a harmonium. There's a dholak player. There's maybe some other percussions, dantal, one keyboard player, and this guy, he's amazing, and you wouldn't believe that he sings his entire repertoire of just Baita Ghana songs, and everyone is impressed. That is so marketable, and you know, I'm drawing a lot of inspiration from him. And thanks to you, thanks to Caribbean Hindustani, our very good friend Raj Mohan as well, for making the contact with Sandeep Badlow, that, you know, we are actually in talks of doing some work between Trinidad and Tobago, Holland and Suriname. And you know, I'm very excited about that.
But one thing I want to point out though is that, and I always make this reference because when we did the interview with Charda Patesa, we were counting the fact to the birth of local classical within the 1920s. The reason was that after indentureship, they were allowed to move from estate to estate. And once you have that freedom of movement and sharing of ideas, that's where you find creativity. One thing I find though is that, and it's the same miserly attitude we speak about with the artists, is that if they would make a link in Suriname, Guyana, Fiji, Mauritius, they would keep it to themselves because they think that would armor them to be the better competitor. Whereas what we're looking at now is sharing the information where you have Suriname or Netherlands Hindustani content in Trinidad playing on the radio,
yes,
and vice versa, and that represents what that exchange what took place during the end of indentureship. Why do you think though that wealth of information in communicating between diaspora countries, why is it something not en vogue and something that we now started exploring in Caribbean Hindustani?
Well, that's basically, I would leave that towards the media. What is marketable out of Trinidad? They won't want to market something that would be competition to what they are selling.
Right.
I'm a promoter from Trinidad. I have big artists over here. They might not be up to par when it comes to the language. However, musically, they are there.
Right.
Their crossover, you know, it's actually up to par. So, if I have a radio station, a TV station, I would say, you know, I promote my own. and we'll be able to make some money out of that. The collaborations, however, to bring in someone to give competition that you don't have any leverage over, it's a little bit risky. Maybe that's how they looked at it for the years gone by. However, we have broken that barrier, because, as I said, these days no one subscribes to just one one station or wherever the case may be. If you're not playing what I like, I have the access to go on social media. Social media is running the route right now,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? So once it's on Facebook, once it's on YouTube, it doesn't matter, it will be broadcasted. So it's up to us now to accept that. And a lot of the radio stations I'm seeing now, they have changed that, the TV stations, and they're actually highlighting international artists, because there's a market for it now, and it's up to the artists now. I mean, it's there. If you see something that you could draw inspiration from, you could learn something, then by all means do it. Time is definitely not on our side. I always say that. Time is not on your side, You're on time side. You need to act on every opportunity as it comes to you, right? So I must say congratulations to local media. I'm seeing an influx of international artists being played on radio stations and highlighted on TV stations as well. So this is a signal of a good change in regards to the media. The years gone by, we didn't have it. There were the lucky few that we would have heard of, maybe, as you said, Ramdev, Chaitu, Ashni, and Kanchan. But were they the only singers at that time? No, there was thousands of singers that were probably just as good.
Right.
But because of the marketing, it was held back. And access to the media. Yes, and access to the media, it was held back. Collaborations wasn't done, and as it should have been. However, we are actually trying to break that trend right now, because I believe that this could do so much for the culture, Visham. This could do so much for the inspiration to the youths to actually see young people teaming up from different countries and doing it like this. And this is my main focus, my main drive in actually doing a collaboration with Sandy Badlu, who's, as I said earlier on, one of the best speakers of the language I've heard in regards to a young person. He speaks it fluently, and he composes his own songs, right? And yourself as well, being a very versed in both the Bhojpuri language and the Hindi language, you're a very good mediator in the middle. And I must say congratulations for you for actually making those links to Trinidad and Tobago.
And I want to go back to local classical when it was popular, because this idea of sharing this space with Guyana and Suriname is nothing new. Because from my research in local classical, I would have seen, like, maybe from the 1960s all the way up to the 1980s, there were collaborations taking place between Suriname, Guyana, and Trinidad, because there were competitions for local classical set in Suriname that Trinidadians would attend and Guyanese, vice versa in the three countries. Based on your history with your grandfather, because he would have been part of that time, right? Could you just tell us what you know of it? Because people, for some reason, things like that could inspire us to become better is erased from the history.
Yes.
So could you just tell us the bit of information you might have from that period?
Well, definitely, to be accepted into Suriname at that time, for they to want you, you have to be a good singer. Mm-hmm. You have to be very, very good in the language, because everyone in Suriname was speaking Hindi or Bhojpuri at that time, right? So my grandfather was given the opportunity. They called him up. And at that time, that was actually a very, very big thing for them to call him and say, Sukhdev Sukraj, we want you to perform in Suriname. They even called him from Jamaica as well at that time. And it was a very big thing for him, being that they recognized him as one of the best singers coming out of Trinidad and Tobago. The competition for media wasn't there at that time. So, which means this was actually a huge step in the direction for the culture itself. They were actually ambassadors. I would like to say that they were ambassadors when they went there, and they actually showed them what they could do. And there's still remnants of that. My grandfather, he has some of his original compositions being sung by Suriname people up to today
and
on
even,
YouTube.
Even our friends like Suraj Siulal and Sandy Badlu talk about your grandfather.
Yes.
I remember I was taken aback, because I think Suraj, our friend from the Netherlands, who has Suriname roots, he had actually tagged me and you on one of your grandfather's old numbers, and I was completely taken aback. But anyway, this is we'll carry off from this in the next segment, but we take a short break and we will be right back.
MRK Consultants, agent for Presidential Insurance Company Limited, is celebrating 16 years of insurance services. With convenient parking and knowledgeable staff, MRK Consultants are geared to provide all your motor insurance needs, including third-party and comprehensive coverage for all your motor vehicles. Call or visit our office today. MRK Consultants, Chandrahari Building, number 9, Todd Street, El Socorro, 221-5051. Save on your motor insurances. Call MRK today.
And welcome back. We've been talking about local classical chutney and where they exist today within their evolution and what are the potentials. We also spoke of Caribbean Hindustani, another part of this program. We encourage you to go to Caribbean Hindustani, that is Caribbean Hindustani on Facebook, and look at the content there. A lot of the stuff Veejai and I would have done is also there. But Veejai, let's come back to, we were speaking, and forgotten tradition essentially would be, I think, because you said the beats and the melody is there, especially with the fusion that takes place in Trinidad. That's a brand by itself.
Yes.
But now we also speak of the lyrics. A lot of people don't know that you know Hindi, right? And a lot of people don't know that we have done collaborations. I want you to speak to why you would have endeavored in doing new compositions, because people don't really see that aspect of you on the stage, let's say in Chutney Soca. But because you said that maybe later on it could be something that's now in vogue. With respect to your collaborations with what we've done, or any collaboration at all to maintain the Hindi/Hindustani language in your compositions, why bother?
This initiative is actually one that I've dreamed about as a child. It's all well and good to learn from your ancestors, your predecessors, and sing their music. But ultimately, as an artist, you always want something that you could call your own.
Right.
Leave your own mark. Personal compositions, we know, it didn't sell as much in the past. There's a lot of people who had original compositions that they made and they sang, and it didn't make it to the forefront that much. However, being an artist, this is something that we should all ascribe to, and push ourselves to actually accomplish some point in our career. With that being said, we met like more than maybe about 20 years ago, Visham. You knew me a long time, and I learned Hindi from you. I'm still learning, and learning Hindi is one, going to a class is the next. But what am I going to do with it as a musician? Am I just going to learn it to translate movies or just impress someone? No. You want to make your own mark. You want to be Veejai Ramkissoon, who is remembered for something. And with that being on the forefront of the burner, I decided, let's do original compositions. And to my surprise, you were ready to do that as well. That was in the back of your mind, and when I mentioned it, you was like, Veejai, this is the plan that we had all the time. So why did it take you so long to actually mention this? And I was very excited when we got the opportunity to perform at the NCIC's Indian Arrival Day program. I can't remember which year exactly, and we were given the task
2010
to do an original composition. And I remember you called me up and you said, Veejai, what direction you want to go with this song? And the first thing came to my mind is that we should pay homage to our country, which is Trinidad.
Right.
We always pay homage to our motherland in India, and that our forefathers belong to. However, we are products of Trinidad.
Right.
We are Trinidadian. And, I mentioned to Visham, I said, if we were to do a song, let's do a Trinidadian patriotic song.
Right.
A song patriotic to Trinidad. And hence the birth of Hamar Desava Saad Dunya Se Nyara, which is entirely in Bhojpuri.
Right.
You know, I just told you the idea. You ran with it, and within, I mean, a couple of days, you came back to me with some lyrics. Definitely, we tweaked it a little bit to put it into the tune, but I had a tune in mind that was a little different from the one that you came with. And, you know, sat down and sang it. And to my surprise, when we performed it on the stage, we got a standing ovation because, you know, there were people there who could have appreciated what we did. They were actually listening to it and hearing it. And the biggest compliment I ever got from doing that original composition was when I performed it at another event, and we had people, there was a delegation from India. They came, there was a conference at the NCIC, and they said, what do you all have? We know what, you know, I was singing.
Right.
And they say, we know all the songs that you're singing from India, but what do you all have from Trinidad? And they posed that challenge to me on the spot. And I was actually very, very happy because I was excited to the fact that I actually had something prepared for them.
Right.
You know, and I jumped on it and I started singing Hamar Desawa Sari Dunya Se Nyara, and there was this Trinidad Deswa hai ab hamare gharwa ehu nawa zindagi mein ka hoi humka bhagwan hamare sang na aave andhyara. And you know, when we sang that verse, they stood up and they gave us a round of applause.
They didn't expect it.
They didn't expect it, and you know, I was singing all different types of Sashya Sangeet. I was doing Laga Chunadi Medag and doing all the rags, and they were very impressed. However, when I walked off the stage, the only song that they remembered was Hamar Desawa. And to me, this struck a nerve because although it might not make a hit in Trinidad because of the trends that we have, internationally it could capture an eye.
Right.
And it could capture an ear. So there is a market for it on the outside, and I want to tell all the local artists right now, don't lose hope when it comes to doing your own compositions, doing Hindustani compositions. Do it because the potential for it to grow is very, very big. You never know, you might actually impress the right person from on an international thing that says, you know, this guy does original compositions, we could actually put him in a movie or something.
I want to go back to even the styles of Sunrapopo because, and even Tulsidas did it because at that time Awadhi, the language with the Ramcharitramanas is written in, he would have composed that Ramcharitramanas in that language, but in the beginning he did Sanskrit.
Right.
Because he wanted to speak to the academic crowd and say, well, I also could do what you can do. So even an artist who would sing in Trinidad English Creole, I mean, it speaks mountains of him or a great deal of him if he would start off in Hindi, Hindustani first and then go in Trinidad English. So just could you give us, maybe you said the words, but just to sing a few lines in the melody that we chose, just to show, because a lot of people think that Veejai Ramkissoon is about this chutney soka now. But Veejai Ramkissoon, I know, still delves into all the aspects of expression. Sure. And he has a better opportunity to gain what is in vogue or create something that could become what is in vogue. So just give us a few lines of it.
Of course, I'm a singer. I always grasp the opportunity to sing. So this is the introduction to Hamar Desawa. I'm just going to do the introduction.
Sure.
एकता की दौड़ बनी बेमिसाल है हम भारत के वासी हैं हम भारत के वासी हैं हम भारत के लाल हमार देशवा सारी दुनिया से न्यारा हमार देशवा सारी दुनिया से न्यारा सारी दुनिया से न्यारा सारी दुनिया से न्यारा सारी दुनिया से न्यारा हमार देशवा सारी दुनिया से न्यारा कहते हैं लोग जिसे सोने की चिड़ैया जन्म और ही राम जन्म कन्हैया बहते हैं और ही गंगा जमुना की धारा है जमुना की धारा हमार देशवा सारी दुनिया से न्यारा हमार देशवा सारी दुनिया से न्यारा.
And just for the audience, it says Hamara Desava Sari Dunya Se Nyara, means my country is the best in the world. But if we were to go to the lyrics, the first part would sing about India, talking
Yes.
about indentured laborers, and then the other verses went to the fact that even though, yes, they said that India was the best, now I am a resident of Trinidad, so Trinidad is the best, which speaks to that patriotism and nationalism we spoke of. But we didn't stop there, though. We went on to compose even in more Bhojpuri, and the Bhojpuri that we would know your grandfather and my grandparents would have spoken.
Yes.
And we did another collaboration, which was completely new because it was not based, or we created a whole new melody to go with it, and it would be my words based on an idea that you had given me. So tell us a little bit about that in wrapping up, and then we could probably end with that song.
All right, so the whole fact of the direction of the next composition, we had Hamad Disaba, which deals patriotic, and I said that I always had this dream to do something that deals with love.
Right.
So maybe we could look to market this on an international scale. Maybe tackle the ZTVs, the IETVs, to do something with us, because we could do it too. We could do, not every single local competition has to be about patriotism. It could actually,
or local classical,
or local
even
classical
chutney music.
or even chutney music. It could actually stem further than that. We could
Right.
actually do compositions that would speak
Could
to
compete with Bollywood.
the heart. Yeah.
Yes.
And we could actually set a standard as well.
Right.
And expressing that, I remember expressing just the idea to you, and you came back to me with some lyrics. I know that your inspiration strikes at the weirdest time. So sometimes, 3 o'clock in the morning, I remember getting phone calls from Veejai, and he said, hey, I have these lyrics, but I need you to put a tune to it. But we want to put an original tune. So I'm just saying, guys, that what I'm going to sing right now is totally original. The tune was actually composed by myself, the lyrics by Dr. Veejai Ramkissoon. And I'm not going to...
Lakshmikant and Pyarelal in the making.
Well, hopefully, one day we could actually reach to maybe their toenail in success. So the song goes like this. हम तोहके ना देखिला, हम तोहके ना देखिला, का तुम हमारे संगे बा, का तुम हमारे संगे बा, हम तोहके ना देखिला, चौदिसी आवाज सुनत है, चौदिसी आवाज सुनत है, तोर नजर नहीं आवत है, लगला हमार नगीच है, हिया हमारे ही जानत है, हिया हमारे ही जानत है, जानत है, जानत है, हम तोहके ना देखिला.
And just to add to the meaning of it, Hum tohke na dekhila, I don't see you, are you with me? And then it goes on to say, I hear your voice, but I don't see you. I feel you're here, but my heart tells me you are. And it goes along that same Sufi using the lover and the beloved and worldly love, and creating a love that's greater than that between God and the devotee. But so thanks again, Veejai, for having you. We did explore a lot today. We looked at basically the evolution of the song tradition brought by our ancestors, and how it came to where it is today, as well as looking at the loss of the language, but looking at people like Veejai, Veejai Ramkissoon, who now still knows the language to some extent and wants to do something different about it. Thanks again for joining us. I invite all of you to look or go to Caribbean